when you're speaking in front of your audience, you want to have a smooth flow to your speech. You want it to be simple, easy, powerful, moving. And if you don't take the right steps beforehand, and you don't do the right things during the speech, you discover that your speech gets interrupted. You fall apart. Don't know what to say next. And sometimes things can happen in your speech that just knocks you out. You don't know what to do. You're stuck. Completely stuck. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to do next. How do I know this? Because it's happened to me. Today you're going to hear about some stories about what happened with me and my speaking and how I discovered make sure those problems didn't happen again. It's one of the most terrifying things for a speaker is the idea that they're going to get up there and they're going to have a problem with their speech. Your speech is everything. It's everything. It's you. It's your credibility. It's your message. It's that thing you worked and worked at. When that all falls apart in front of an audience, take it from me, that's really gets you. Really brings you down. The 3 simple things you can do to make sure it doesn't happen to you. Make sure you don't have the same problems I had when I was speaking. Make sure you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So today you're going to learn about the first thing to do. Before you even write your speech, before you even create your speech, before you get anywhere with your speech, before you even begin your speech, there's something very important to do. And that will make or break your speech before it's even started. If you don't do that at the beginning, the speech you haven't written is destined to fall apart. It's going to fall apart. It's just a matter of time. Something you can do, very simple, very powerful. Most speakers don't do it. They don't think about it, and because of that they get incredible problems. You're going to find out today what mistake that is to avoid and how to avoid it. You also learn a very simple method to make sure when you get up there that you know what the heck you're talking about. There is, and for a speaker, no scarier feeling than getting up there and just having a problem talking. I mean, talking is what you do. If you're a speaker, you've got to get up there and talk. To get up there and not be able to talk, it's terrifying. There's something very simple you can do to make sure it doesn't happen. Make sure it never happens. Make sure there's no opportunity of happening. If you do something very special and simple before you get up there to speak. Many speakers don't do this, so many speakers will come to that point in their speech, things get a little bit tense, things aren't going the right way, and all of a sudden things will just fall apart and they won't know what to do. And they'll be stuck. Really stuck. Doesn't happen to you. Doesn't have to happen to you if you do this simple thing. Very easy, very simple. If you don't do it, disaster. If you do it, things start falling into place. And when you're up there, when you're on stage, when you're in front of people, and they're all looking at you, something that can happen that will just derail your speech, ruin your speech. And it happens to a lot of speakers. And it's a trap. Because they get caught up in that trap, that speaking trap that set them explicitly for them, speech falls apart. But all that doesn't need to happen to you. Your speech can flow smoothly, easily. First time, every time when you get up there to speak, you can nail it and have the audience coming back for more. You give a really great speech. Just learn to do a few things. Have you ever had a problem coming up with something to say? That was a big problem I was having. I had been thinking about it all day. What the heck was I going to say? And nothing was coming to me. Absolutely nothing. So I just sitting there with this blank piece of paper in front of me, knowing I wanted to write a speech about something, having no clue where to start or what to begin or what to talk about. And I just couldn't begin. So I started writing down a bunch of random stuff and kind of created this sort of thing that just something I could talk about. But I thought, this just isn't working. It's just not happening. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. I don't know why I can't just put this thing together. I don't know what I'm doing here. I just kind of struggled. I finally put together some sort of a speech thing, but I just knew that wouldn't work. I couldn't possibly give that in front of anybody. And the next day, I ran into Ted, who is a very good speaker and has a lot of great advice, middle-aged guy, kind of has been there and done that kind of thing. And my mentor. Maybe you have a mentor, somebody you go to for advice. Ted's the guy I go to for speaking advice. I said, Ted, I don't know what's going on. Last night I was trying to sit down and figure out what I was going to talk about and what I was going to say. It just wasn't happening. Ted said, yeah, I understand what you're talking about, Tim. I've had that happen before. The challenge is you need to have clear objectives for your speech. And then Ted started explaining a little bit more what clear objectives are and how that works. When you're doing a speech or trying to create a speech, if you just try to create a speech, you're thinking, I just want to talk about something, that's not a clear objective. That's not going to help you create anything. However, if you can start thinking about what do you want the audience to do, think, or feel, that gets pretty clear. That makes it pretty clear about what you're looking for. Why don't you start with that goal in mind? Okay, I want the audience to do this. I want the audience to think this. I want the audience to feel this way. Then that determines what you write about. That determines your speech. If something doesn't help the audience do, think, or feel that, you just throw it out of your speech. So it keeps your speech on target. So when you're giving your speech, you don't wander all over the place. Everything is focused on this objective. It's one objective. This is what the whole thing's about. This is what I want the audience to do, think, or feel. And it's just tremendously useful. Because once you get that down, once you say, okay, I know what I want the audience to do, I know what the audience to think, I know what the audience to feel, you just throw out all that other stuff. And you might be thinking, Tim, that sounds like it's a big deal. It sounds like it's complex. How do you figure out what you're going to talk about in the first place? And that's a good point. I struggle with that too. And Ted helped me understand that what you talk about is something you're passionate about, something you're interested in. Once you talk about something like that, then it's easy to talk, and then you can really focus in on what do you want the audience to do, think, or feel. And if you can define that, if you can say, okay, this is what I want the audience to do, think, or feel in a short sentence, then you've got a real speech. Then you've got something there. But even if you've got all this stuff going on down, you know what the audience to do, think, or feel, and you've gone through and you have clear objectives, your speech can still get derailed as you're talking. You're forget about what you're going to say. That's why you want to keep this in mind. It was the big day, the big moment. I was up there on stage, and I was talking about something I was really excited about, really interested about. I knew what I wanted the audience to do, how they wanted to think, how they wanted to feel. I had very clear objectives, exactly what I wanted to go on in this speech. No question in my mind. Everything was rolling. I thought, this is happening. I thought, wow, I'm really on fire here. I got so excited to see the audience in front of me and their interest and their reaction, their interaction. You ever had that happen? Your audience? You're talking to the audience and you get them kind of feeding back on you and you're feeding back on it? Yeah. If you haven't done that, it's just a great feeling. You're up there and you're talking and people are really getting into what you're saying. It's wonderful. So I'm into it. I'm thinking, hey, everything's going great. And then all of a sudden, it's not so great. And I think, what am I supposed to say next? It's okay, don't panic. It's all right, Tim, don't panic, it's okay. Just, what are you going to say next? And I start thinking about it, and thinking about it, and thinking about it, and nothing's coming into my mind. So I started thinking, okay, this is not good. Where are my notes? And my notes were off stage. So I ran off stage, got my notes and came back, found my place, got going. But I lost the energy. I lost the audience. I lost the interest. The whole thing fell apart. And there weren't too much applause or clapping at the end of that speech. Well, the next day, again, I went out to see Ted. I said, Ted, I went up on stage and just forgot everything I was doing. What can I do? Ted said, yeah, I've heard of that happens to people. Most important thing, if you want to do that, you want to really make sure you know what's going on. Yeah, Ted, I do. What do I do? Ted said, prepare constantly. And he went on to talk a little bit more about what he meant by preparing constantly. When you're getting ready for your speech, you're getting ready to do your speech, go over it every day. Go over it repeatedly. Have it in front of you. Just go through it once. You don't need to perfect it. Just read through it if you've got it written out. Talk through it if you simply got it in your head. You've got a bunch of bullet points down on paper. Just go down those bullet points. Talk it out. Every day. Because when you're on stage and all the pressure starts hitting you, all sorts of thoughts start going through your head. Maybe you've had this happen. You start thinking, what if I forget? What if I don't know what's coming next? What if I don't remember my main points? What am I going to do if I forget up there? Now, if you've just been kind of running through it a couple times beforehand, you could think, I forgot. I don't know what I'm saying. But if you've been doing it every day for a month, every day going through that speech for a month, it's so ingrained in your head that you're thinking, it would take me more effort to forget this speech than it would be just to do it the way I practiced it. So prepare constantly in your speech. But even if you prepare constantly, there's something that can happen that can throw your speech off at the last moment. you aren't ready for this, well, you've got a big problem. All right, I had the clear objectives. I knew exactly what I wanted the audience to do, think, or feel. I prepared the speech, everything was ready to go. I was feeling confident. I was thinking, yeah, I can do this. Ted's ideas are great. Do, think, or feel. Okay, fine. I'm going to work on that. And I've been preparing constantly. All the time, going over it. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Little bit, preparing over and over again, preparing constantly. All right, I know what the heck I'm going to say. And then it happened. And I wasn't ready for it. I didn't know what to do, and it took me by complete surprise. I was in the middle of my speech, and everything was going on fine. And I got to a point where I started to ask questions of the audience. And so I prepared the thing, and then some guy who seemed like he hadn't gotten enough sleep or he was tired, and he said, well, why should we care? What does it really matter, the stuff you're talking about? I'm not going to do it, and probably nobody else is here going to do it anyway either. So, why bother? And I hadn't expected that answer at all. And I froze. I started thinking, okay, why does this matter? Why is this important? Why is it really talking about this? And then I caught myself and began to talk about, oh, okay, it's important because of this, and it's important because of that, and these are things that really make it important. And the more I talked, the further I got from the point that I was trying to make, and very soon I had forgotten about what the heck point I was trying to make at all. And I kind of went through the whole thing, and I finished up, and I ended it somehow. But all the points I wanted to make along the line, they just weren't there. That question had just completely torpedoed my speech. And afterwards, I was going over to my friend Ted, and Ted was in the audience, and Ted said, wow, you really got knocked out there, Tim. I says, yeah, Ted, I don't know what to do. And Ted said, Tim, I understand how this can happen, and that's why you want to make sure that you're going to quickly handle any off-topic questions. Ted started explaining a little bit more about that and how that works. As I discovered, and maybe you've discovered, if you're going to have Q&A for the audience, question and answer session, or you're just going to open the audience up to questions and ask them stuff, they can go way, way away from what the heck you're talking about. You can start here, and the audience ends up somewhere over here, and they get these strange ideas. And some people out there, it's just amazing what they come up with. The problem is, those questions can just derail your speech. You're trying to go this way, the audience takes it off this way, and it's a problem. So when you're asking questions, make sure you know what the answer is supposed to be, and if they don't give the answer you're looking for, quickly get it back on topic. So you can say something like, great response, or if you give it a question a lot of people, great responses, all of them. You got an important point here. There's something, however, that you're missing, and something I missed too. And it's something that really helped me understand really what this is all about. So if the questions get off topic, just bring it back. And then bring out your point. Also, when you're asking questions to the audience, see if you can use yes or no questions. Just get people to kind of agree. Say, does that make sense? Is that right? Kind of check in with the audience from time to time to make sure they're with you as you make point after point after point. And if they don't go along with you, you can say, some of you may not agree with that right now. That's okay. Just go along with me here and pretend you agree, and we'll see if things make a little bit more sense down the line. So acknowledge it, but whatever you do, make sure you stay on track with your questions. those questions get off and they start verging off onto something else, then you've got a disaster in your hands. Then everything falls apart. You don't know what you're doing. Keeping those questions on track is very important to really make sure everything hangs together. When you do that, you keep everything on track. Then you can have a really first-rate experience in your speech, because everything flows smoothly and everything goes where it's supposed to go when you're speaking. All right, let's wrap up all the things that you learned today. Important things you learned about how to make sure when you're speaking that you get it right that first time, every time. So your speeches come out of the gate strong, powerful, and just smoothly go. And you have full control of that speech all the way through. If you lose control of the speech, it's a disaster. So we'll make sure it doesn't happen. And the first thing about it is to make sure you set clear objectives. From the very beginning, as you're creating the speech, set clear objectives for your speech. And that'll determine what you keep in the speech and what you decide to toss out. Clear objectives are so very important, because without any clear objectives in your speech, you can't get started. Ideas just kind of spin and spin around and you don't go anywhere because there's no place to go. And to help you set clear objectives, think about, what do you want the audience to do, think, or feel? That's the important thing. What do you want the audience to do, think, or feel after your speech is over? Thinking about that, focusing on that, getting a sentence that describes, this is what I want the audience to do, or this is what I want the audience to think, or this is what I want the audience to feel, help a lot in keeping that speech focused. It doesn't wander all over the place. Once you have the clear objectives, practice constantly. Prepare constantly. Always be ready. Always be working on that speech. It's not a big deal. When you give a half-hour speech, just do 5 minutes of it a day. Or if you're an hour speech, just do 5 minutes of it a day. You do 5 minutes today of a half an hour speech, that means in 6 days, you've done the full speech. Every 6 days, you've done the speech once. So in 12 days, you've done the speech twice, and you get the idea. Instead of trying to go through this half-hour speech, it'd be a huge task to do. Just constant preparation. Little bit, constant done, will create a much better speech. What will happen is when you get up there, you know that speech so well. When you start thinking, what if I forget? The answer will come instantly. How can I forget? It'd take more effort to forget the speech than it does just do it the way I've been practicing it over and over and over. And then finally, quickly handle any off-topic questions that come in from the audience. So if you do have a Q&A session, a question and answer session, make it brief. And if you can avoid a question and answer session, that's even better. Because people won't be able to really get into their heads about what you're talking about. This is the first time they've been exposed to it, many of them. So a lot of the questions they have are questions you will answer in your talk. And if you aren't answering the questions in their talk, that's a whole different matter. So keep the question and answer session brief if you haven't, or cut it out if you can. And if there does come a wild question, some weird question, nothing to do with your topic, handle it, get it done. Ask yes or no questions. See if get the audience to kind of go along and say, is that right? Does that make sense? Quickly handle those things, off-topic questions, because those will derail your speech. But if you handle them well, and you get the audience involved, give them a chance to feel like they're participating, then your speech can go smoothly. Now, you might be thinking, Tim, this is a lot of work to do to prepare for a speech. I mean, clear objectives and prepare constantly and handle off-topic questions. That's too much work for me. I don't know if I want to do all that stuff. I just got to kind of go out there, run the speech through a couple times and get out there and think goes bad, I'll have my notes. And I say, fine. You want to go out there in front of your audience and risk having no point? No problem. If you want to go out there on stage in front of your audience and start stammering and babbling about stuff with nothing to do with what you're trying to get across, hey, don't worry about it. You want to go out there and lose your track of your place and just kind of stare at the audience for 20 seconds or a minute or longer, or you have to keep on looking at your notes back and forth? That's no problem too. And you want to go out there and have your whole speech just be completely derailed by some random comment by some person in the audience? Hey, don't work into this stuff. But if you want to have a smoothly flowing speech, follow these 3 points. If you want to have a speech that gets people connected, involved in, and interested all the way through, follow these 3 points. You want to have a speech that really gets people thinking and has a deep effect to profoundly change and transform their lives, follow these 3 points. These 3 points will make a huge difference. Talked about a lot of things today. Remember nothing else. Just remember, go out in front of your audience. You want to make sure you get that speech right the first time and every time you give that speech.